Here's a movie that made millions of dollars self-distributing online, and I'm going to walk through the tactics that they used, what they did to make that money, how it all worked, because self-distribution seems kind of daunting, and there are success stories like this movie. Now, the difference between this and my movie, or even probably your movie, is that this looks like a $100 million blockbuster, so that gives them a major advantage right out of the gate. But still, the tactics and what they learned from their experience does apply to the rest of us not making cool sci-fi movies. So first off, their budget was $1 million, which was self-financed by the director, Mark, who has since passed away, I found out recently, but he raised the money himself. He had directed a ton of huge commercials, things like Coca-Cola and massive companies. So he had the experience, and he also had the cash to put forward. But what did they actually make back? They made $3 million back across all of their platforms. This is the numbers that they're reporting. I obviously can't totally vet every single number here because I don't have access to their real accounting or anything like that. But that's an insane amount back. Even if those numbers are slightly off, that's still millions of dollars back. So the real question we should all be asking is, how did they do it? What did they do? Well, let's look at the tactics they used. Their tactics, first of all, was they were offered multiple seven-figure deals that they turned down. So imagine that. Someone says, I'll give you $1 million to traditionally distribute your movie right now. And then you say, no, that's all right. I'm going to do it myself. That's insane. That's crazy. And the reason that they turned it down is that the revenue split wasn't there, and also the control wasn't there. So they knew they were just kind of giving over all of their rights to a company that was going to probably market their movie and not give them much control. So what did they do? They opted to self-distribute via aggregators, which is like Film Hub and stuff, to get on video on demand platforms like Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Microsoft, all of them. They were basically bypassing the middleman, because you have to keep in mind that these platforms already take 50% of the money. So Amazon takes 50%, Apple TV takes 30%, and then if they went through a traditional distributor, that distributor would also take 30. That distributor would also take 30% and then charge them expenses. So at least going this way, they knew their expenses, they knew that they were in charge of all of it, and they just had to pay that fee to get it on the platforms. Then they used, and this is really smart, and you don't see this work all the time in indie film, they ran digital ads. They ran $25,000 worth of digital advertising to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and they tested 40 trailers, and they had over 50 million views on those trailers. And the numbers that they got back were a 40x ROI, which means that every dollar they spent turned into $40. And the common question I've gotten about this is, if they made that much return, why didn't they just keep spending money? And honestly, this is something that the director said in an interview. I was listening to an interview with him, and he said he wishes they'd spent more money. The reason they didn't spend more money is because the reporting was so slow from Amazon and Apple TV that it was months later that they got their quarterly report and realized, what? Like, we were making 40 times back on our spend? We should have spent more, but that kind of golden window had already passed them by. So he said his one his one regret on this project was not spending more money on it, on marketing. Then they also hosted a free kind of scrappy IMAX screening in Australia to get buzz. That's really smart. And then they also sold their international rights to companies to stream it all over the world, which is really smart and actually really, really possible with a sci-fi movie like this. That's a really smart move. And then after all of the money kind of dried up and it wasn't doing the same numbers anymore, they shifted to like AVOD platforms like Tubi, where it's free to stream and you just get paid a little percentage of the actual streams, the advertising revenue. So what do I take away from this? One, self-distribution can work. It doesn't always work, but it can work. Two, they ran thousands of dollars in digital marketing, but the speed of the results were harming them, were hurting them, which is, I think, another reason that using self-distribution, not just Amazon and Apple TV, is so going to be the next wave. Like, I made another video breaking down all the options for that, but I think that control, if you could hear in real time exactly when people buy your movie and which ads are working and all of that, I think that would be a huge win. They also didn't just rely on online marketing. They also did some scrappy theatrical release stuff, which I love. And then they adjusted their strategy. They stayed nimble. When the results started dipping, they went to new platforms like Tubi, and they kept the thing rolling. So some really, really smart filmmaking here, some really smart distributing of their project here. And you got to know that it's not just about making money on your movie, it's about unlocking that next movie. Because if you can look at a distributor or an investor in the eye and say, we made back this much money, the likelihood that they're going to give you money for your next movie just shoots through the roof. So this isn't just about getting rich or having a huge ego. It's about unlocking that next project. But why am I talking about this? It's because I'm thinking about building a system that solves some of the issues that they had. I'm not trying to compete with Netflix or anything, but I am thinking about ways to build tools that I wish existed when I first released my movie, Turbo Cola, and I ran into a lot of the same issues that these guys did. Not the issue of making $3 million though. So if you're interested in that, subscribe, stay connected. There might be a waitlist link, or it might even be live by now. Who knows? But thank you guys for watching. We'll do more of these because this teaches me a lot. All right, thanks.